Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for coming to the podcast studio.
My pleasure. Yeah.
Very happy.
Do you want to start or should I start?
You can start. I will follow.
We were just talking now about scientific accuracy in artistic research, and having looked at your incredible mirror, I was fascinated by the way in which you work with some of these sort of developing these algorithms to then transform them into a physical possibility. And it's very to represent something that in the field of scientific research is often sort of thought of as impossible to represent. And sort of this play with the limitations of scientific knowledge is and the possibilities of representation, to me, seems like a very interesting angle to potentially start to explore this work. So I wonder if you could tell us a little bit more about how it came about, this idea of the mirror. And
yeah, that was it was interesting how Carla just as well expressed how art should not instrumentalize science, because it doesn't say anything about science and it doesn't say anything about art. So I'm very happy to hear that from a scientist. That's fantastic, because that means this scientist is very open for different processes. So the mirror came together actually in a very non-linear process. And so it was basically, I'm interested in precursors of cinema. It is an incredible domain of apparatuses, and in my studio work, I build light sculptures, and I'm fascinated by the behavior of light in many levels. But of course, in certain levels I cannot enter. Therefore, you need very expensive machines. And so I started materializing with at the start with acrylic mirrors, and then basically we came to this optical effect. I mean, we're looking at an optical effect, but then discussing with my collaborator, we came to this idea to cut like this 50% that is cut out of this stainless steel mirror. Became then this result of this algorithm, which is based on wave function collapse. So it's basically a graphical representation of a wave function collapse, which is the mathematic equivalent of the collapse of a superposition. And then you iteration, and then okay, this is it. And then you put it in an exhibition, and then it starts to
take a life of its own.
Exactly.
through every single reflections of people that use it. You have mentioned that your interest in the sort of pre-cinema and light. We are extremely interested in sort of the evolution of cinematic technologies and light-based technology, and I'm curious if you were happy to maybe trace back with us your work with light and how that sort of evolved and in the instruments that you built.
It started actually as well by coincidence in a way. No, not really. I don't know. Whatever. I was making a wall painting for an outdoor wall of a press company, and there I started to referring with the graphic designer to articulation, which is like a graphical representation of an electronic music piece by György Ligeti, by I think it is a German graphic designer, which is like a visual partitur. So it is a book, and in the back of the book you have a flexi disc with a piece of Ligeti, and then you can read the music. So it's not a score. You don't read it, and it was made in beautiful colors and shapes, and it's 70s print. It is a fantastic book that I found in the library of the conservatory, the Royal Conservatory of The Hague, where I was studying. So we started using like this in the painting on the wall, these complementary colors, like orange and blue, and then when we finished the painting, the sun was setting, so you get the color in the atmosphere, and then this painting started to resonate from the wall, like, and then you have this subtractive color blending. So, and then I thought, okay, I can animate with this, and that was my final exam of my bachelor. And that was basically the takeoff, I think, from this work. And then I read a lot about media archaeology, and I've seen quite some presentations in media arts and fine arts, and how you see that these worlds are sometimes very separate, sometimes overlapping, and as well the evolution of these representations. And sometimes I make the analogy, like I was reading a book, it's called The Discovery of Shadow by Casati, and he describes how street lighting in the beginning, first of all, it's not made for convenience, but for surveillance. And that is interesting as well. And in the beginning, it was an oil lamp. And the oil flame is moving with the wind. So at that time, before the gas lamp, all shadows in the city were moving until the gas lamp came. And then poof, everything is fixed.
No more magic.
Yeah. So, and in a way, you saw that as well in the field of new media festivals, which in the beginning were, like in the 90s, were very diverse with crazy installations and stuff. And until efficiency rolls in the industry, and then it distills to a stereo setup with a projector.
And now we're back into indeterminacy. We're coming full circle into moving shadows, because now when you look at your other counterpart on the other side of the mirror, you have to also negotiate with light and shadow in the room. It's good possibility, new possibility.
And mirrors carry really a strong symbolism, and for some people they were like portals to other worlds, like for Cocteau in the Orphée is how Orfeo can reach Euridice by getting into the mirror, and then also Guadagnino is using them for telepathy and other things. I wanted to ask you if there is some vision. It doesn't have to be scientific vision, but that really transported you to another dimension, perspective. And you already mentioned the discovery of shadow, but maybe you want to tell us about some other discovery.
No, I was really intrigued by James Bridle's ways of being, and how he puts a perspective of like our Western colonial perspective on which is shaping these technologies, and how this book, after all these books that he wrote before were pretty depressing, this was such an optimistic book. It was, and how we could live in a more sustainable and optimistic world if we would have a cultural paradigm shift, totally. And that book really hit me.
Thank you for the suggestion.
Yeah,
I think maybe we'll continue this in later in a sort of separate, longer form.
On the dance floor.
On the dance floor. But for now, thank you. And these are quick conversations, but we certainly have more to explore together. Thank you so much, Mike.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
And congratulations again for the work.
Quick but intimate.
Don't forget your tea.